Hi, I would like to speak with you guys about Dolores Cannon and this whole movement that has arisen about 5 earth densities. It's something that has been in the back of my mind for a while. I've seen it on the internet. There's all these groups. It's a whole belief system that has arisen, and it's never sat easily with me, and I wasn't quite sure why, because there is truth within it. So essentially, the idea is that human beings somehow they raise their consciousness and they physically separate and move from this 3rd dimension to a 5th dimension. What a lot of crap. Jump the gun there. That is the blind leading the blind. That is not what is going to happen. I wrote a few pages on the subject. I was going to sort of put it on my website, and then I thought, actually, I would like to talk about this. I would like to share this. So, what do I know about Dolores Cannon? Pretty much nothing. She did hypnotism on people in the 70s, 80s, and as a result of which she began to get a story from the clients, which different clients, they were all more or less saying the same thing apparently, out of which she developed this story. It turned into books, she became famous, she taught more people, she died. I'm not anti-capitalism, but the story is still going, the family business is going, other people have jumped on the bandwagon. There's so many people who are authorities on the subject. Well, I'm here to put the record straight. And this is what I wrote. I said, "It is difficult to set oneself up as the authority. It is such an arrogant statement for anyone to make. And yet, as a true messenger incarnated at this time, I will say, I am one of the many go-betweens true authority, go-betweens of a true authority." So what I'm actually saying is, and it sort of goes against the grain in a way, I am speaking on behalf of true authority. And I will make a case why, if you will listen. All of us, we all have egos on this earth. No one is free from ego. And what that means is that we move around in a semi-somnambulistic state. We're sort of zombies, really. We have no idea what reality is if it stared us in the face. So we are an ego in our bodies, and our egos are in charge. And unfortunately, to have our egos in charge means that we are slaves. And if you're watching something like this, then you will accept that we create reality for ourselves, both individually and collectively. And if you really were to think about this, you would observe that because we are slaves within ourselves, so our reality is reflecting that. And we are slaves in the sense that collectively we're in debt. the whole system runs on debt. So the whole people who are in debt, they're slaves. They're slaves to the system. And now technology, and we've seen this in China and it's coming our way, it is reflecting the inner slavery within ourselves. Because not only are we slaves internally, we're slaves externally. Even modern technology is simply reflecting the slavery. We are slaves financially, and we are becoming slaves technologically. Who wants to be in that reality? Anyway, so the way out requires an understanding. First of all, we need to understand that we are egos, that we're enslaved. And if that is true, is there anything beyond ego? And if there is something, what could it be? Are you more than an ego? Well, the answer is a soul. We don't have a soul. We are egos. Ego is nothing. We die. And when the body's dead, our software goes with it. But underneath that, we are part of an ego. We're not even, sorry, apologies. Underneath that, we are part of a soul. We are not a soul, but there is a fragment of soul that can become conscious within us. So we, not we, but we do belong to a soul. But a soul is beyond time, it's outside of time. And so a soul's experience cannot be comprehended just by this little slice of time that we call now. A soul's moment of time is a whole chorizo, is a whole sausage. And we are just one little slice in the present. But there's other little slices across different lifetimes. And all those different lifetimes together, all those slices, all those fragments together, from the point of view of outside time, they are a soul. That's what creates a soul. So this whole religious thing of we are a soul, no, we're not even that. We're such a minuscule thing. We're just fragments. We're a fragment of a soul, potentially. We're not even that. We're potentially a fragment of a soul, because that fragment is unconscious in most people. There is no self-awareness. There's not separation from the ego, because the ego is in charge. We're trapped. So we do have the potential for a soul. And I'll share with you, I've got a soul, and my soul is called Eric. Well, I call it Eric, for the, just to differentiate. I call my soul Eric. And I myself, I'm just a small fragment of Eric. But I'm no different from anyone else. My Eric is semi-asleep, because so many of my past lives are asleep, because they never woke up. They died in trauma. They died in ignorance. And so my soul is asleep to a great extent. And that is true for pretty much everyone on this earth. And that is the definition of karma, which is we don't just deal with the traumas to wake up to the fragment of our soul in this lifetime. We do so across all previous lifetimes. Anyway, I'm digressing. But just as much as I am a fragment of a soul, so Eric in me, of which I am a part, not in me, but Eric, is also a fragment of a higher soul. And this is what I call Charlie, my higher soul. And to get there, we have to go through a lot of suffering. We have to learn to forgive ourselves. We have to learn to forgive others. and we have to truthfully get to that place of forgiveness and appreciation and understanding. Well, I've managed that to a great extent. And so part of that has been that my level of consciousness has risen to a point where I am in a privileged position, because there's not many of us. I am in a privileged position whereby I am able to communicate with Charlie, my higher self. Well, actually, that's not true. He communicates with me, and I am now open enough that it's a two-way conversation. So I am in a process of learning from Charlie. And I've reached a level of consciousness as defined by David Hawkins, where my level of accuracy in terms of my communication with Charlie is now 98%, which is the highest that any human being can achieve on this earth, because ego can always get in there and mess things up a little bit now and then. So there's always that 2% chance that I'm wrong in whatever I say or do. And that's my situation. Now, if I go back to Dolores Cannon, so I have asked Charlie about this, and Dolores Cannon's level of consciousness when she was doing all this research with people, with hypnotism, getting information, was 650 out of a maximum of 899 for a human being on this earth. No human being can go higher than 899. It's not possible because of ego. However, at 650, she's got around 66% chance of being accurate in her interaction. So when a person's level of consciousness is below 550 and they interact with another human being, at this, whether you're doing muscle testing or hypnotism, if you start to ask questions, you're going to get feedback. And the level of accuracy of that feedback depends on one's level of consciousness as much as the other person's level of consciousness. And because her level of consciousness was at 650, she was able to communicate to the equivalent of my Charlie. So she was able to get real information, but the level of accuracy wasn't quite there. It was there enough to give us a taste of the truth. And the truth is that yes, something is going to happen. Yes, there is a necessary raising of levels of consciousness. And no, there is no moving into a 5D dimension, half the world is just walking away and the earth splits into two. That's not going to happen. That's not how it goes. Tantalizing, she's not the only one who's had this sort of information come through. There's many others, but it is not the truth. It is only a flavor of the truth. And this is important, and I'll tell you why. It is important because there is a cataclysm coming, and it's coming in March 2046. And we cannot sit on our laurels for when this event happens, because help is at hand. There is a race that I call the true human. To all intents and purposes, to us, they're alien, but they're actually humanoid, and they come in 7 different flavors, and they're called the true humans. And we ourselves have got a 1.5% DNA, which was given to us 500 million years ago. So an event is coming, cataclysmic, and about 4.5 billion will be saved, not by walking to another dimension, but because they will have raised their own level of vibration to a point where they will hear the call from the true humans. And the call will happen about a year before. And the call will be, go to a certain spot and you will be uplifted to the motherships. I appreciate all of this. Sounds terribly mad in a way, or, you know, fantasy world. But what can I say? This is the truth as has been related to me by Charlie. And Charlie has told me that I am an authority. I know it's a difficult one even for me to acknowledge, that I am an authority on the subject. I'm not the only one. Right now on this earth, there are 7 other people like me who have woken up to their connection with their equivalent of Charlie, and who have been told the truth of what's to come, and who know what they have to do to help this. Now, there is, out of 2,120, 1,600 messengers are on this earth right now, but they haven't woken up to who they are as yet. They're on their way, they're not there yet. So there's only a few who truly are aware of events to come and what we need to do in terms of the actual truth. There is a lot of fantasy out there on the internet. There's a lot of people who go fragments of the truth. So what is the truth? The truth is that right now we're enslaved. We're enslaved to our egos. 98% of the world is enslaved to their egos. Within 10 years, we need 1 billion people to wake up, separate from their egos, get to a place of love within their hearts, look at themselves and like what they see, like who they are, forgive who they are, accept themselves with warts and all, and look outside of themselves and see the world for what it is, and feel the pain of the world, and nevertheless begin to share with other people the process of how to raise our levels of consciousness by forgiving other people for their trespasses, by forgiving themselves for their weaknesses, and by extending their loving vibrational energy to infect other people, to act like a tuning fork. When we have a strong tuning fork, smaller tuning forks will begin to resonate to the same frequency. And love is the only frequency that matters. 98% of the world are vibrating to the frequency of fear. It's time to wake up. It's time to move away from fear. It's time to begin to realize that we are enslaved to our souls, that we're not our soul. So I beg your pardon, that we're enslaved to our egos, that we're not our egos. We're so much more than that. But before we can get to that place, we need to start to create a separation between ego, between our fears, our anxieties, and our feelings of love. Our feelings of compassion for ourselves as much as others. When we start to get all these words, criticisms in our heads, all of that is part of ego, all of that is part of the enslavement of mankind. Everybody's got these things going on in their head. we need to begin to move away from that by moving into our hearts. So, I think I pretty much said it all there. I'm open for questions. Feel free to get in touch with me. Website is salmarch.co.uk. I've got other videos. If what I say resonates with you at any level, find me. Take care for now. Bye-bye.